camera up. And Solly's sitting here. But anyway, okay. How did you two know how many kids you wanted to have? Were all your babies planned, or did it just kind of happen?
We had conversations before we even got married about, those were some of those early conversations we had about family and culture and life and all that kind of stuff.
I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. I've talked about it a couple of times. I don't know how much detail I've shared. When I was 19, I had some really traumatic things happen, and I found out in the medical care after the fact that I had non-HPV cervical cancer. People think the only way you can get cervical cancer is through human papilloma virus, and that is a bold-faced lie. I had it, and I've never, ever, ever had any strain of HPV, but I had to have most of my cervix removed, and I was told because of scar tissue and cervical incompetency that I would never be able to have kids. And if I did conceive, we wouldn't even know it. Like, basically, there was no muscle to hold anything in place. And that was a tough thing that we dealt with because, as much as 20-year-old guys aren't like thinking typically, you want a big family and stuff, most guys do, want a kid or two. So that was something we struggled with. So we talked about adoption and what different options we would have. And, he had said he'd like 2 kids. I said I wanted 4. Well, we're like, either somewhere in the middle. 3 is good. And then we had Annie, and that was a shock. We were basically, told, it's not gonna last. Get ready to say goodbye. And then I just kept staying pregnant. And then we moved across the state when I was about 18 weeks pregnant, and we started seeing a midwife. And she basically looked over all my information, gave me a good physical exam, and said, I see absolutely nothing wrong with why you can't carry this baby to term. And I did. She was born at 37 and a half weeks. And then 13 months later, we found out Gabe was coming, and we were shocked. Absolutely shocked, because we were actively preventing. That was rough because we were in a really bad financial place, and we just felt like we'd been so irresponsible somehow. Like, we are so stinking broke. How can we bring kids into this? But we did, and God always provided. And then
Ella was a result of the marital counseling letting us know, like, during those difficult times, as much as the your spouse might not want to be intimate, it's a very important part of marriage, and if that goes, it usually falls out after that.
Yeah.
And
I joke that Ella is proof that our marriage was on a better track.
So we kind of, not necessarily forced ourselves, but implored ourselves into being intimate, and
there was Ella. And it's not, it kind of sounds rough, and I know it's such a delicate topic, but in reality, I mean, sometimes you just don't wanna, but because you love the person, you're like, you know what? I really can. Anyways, Solly was the only one that was planned. The only one. All the rest were surprises to us. After we lost Asher, we had decided we were done. Like, he didn't want to see me have to potentially go through a loss and all of that again, and I was terrified. But I got to a point in my recovery and therapy, dealing with the PTSD, that we had a lot of good conversations, and ultimately decided, like, I personally felt I couldn't end on that. And I felt like somebody was missing. And it wasn't like I missed my baby who we lost. there was something else. It was like, I'd be counting the kids to line up to go out to the car, making sure everybody had shoes on. And I'd be like, I'd get to Aaron, I'd be like, there's someone supposed to be here. And I talked to him about it, and we had a lot of conversations about it. And ultimately, yeah, we tried for Solly, and Solly happened. Mm-hmm. And we felt complete after that. We really felt like everything, I mean, all the rest of our kids are, 20 to 30 months apart. And Solly's going to be 4.5 when Giovanna's born. So she was a surprise too. We really thought we were done.
I mean, surprise, and it's
we
not,
know how that happened.
Yeah, I mean,
if you told me 10 years ago, or when we got married, that we were gonna have 7 kids, maybe more, who knows, but 7 kids, I'd be like, you crazy, I don't even want that many. And now I'm like, as many as God will give us, it's awesome. I drive this great 12-passenger van. Let's fill it up. As long as my body can handle it, I'm good. What event in your life has brought the two of you the closest?
Oh, that's tough. For me, it was the birth of Annie.
Yeah.
It was very...
It was intense.
Intense. Intense is a good word. But just witnessing that for the first time as a young man,
22.
22, watching your wife go through that, that was a big deal.
That was a big deal. I don't know that there's any one event that's brought us the closest. I feel like we have chosen over the years, I mean, aside from the years after Gabe, when things were so tough, before we kind of made the conscious choice to draw back together, I feel like all the hard times, just repeatedly making the choice to be a united front and not turn on each other. And even if we, bicker, it's always realizing that we are on the same team, and we both do, like, trusting that each other, we do mutually want the best for each other, and dealing with every tough thing that we have faced. Like, it's kind of the practicing of that. I feel like that has, to me, that's been huge in bringing us closer. But we've had to choose that a lot. It hasn't always come naturally. What do you do when you're upset with each other?
I hold it in, and just bury it deep, just real deep.
I cry. I get louder. I don't necessarily yell, like when you think yelling at someone. I just
talk loudly.
I express myself loudly, and it's not mean, it's just loud. And I cry. I'm one of those people that I can be seethingly angry, and the only thing that comes out is I bawl. So people don't take me seriously a lot of times, because I can be really angry and really serious about something, and I'm just standing there bawling.
I just keep all my thoughts to myself. So all the responses I have to her, they're just internal monologues.
That sounds so bad.
Because ultimately it just comes down to whatever I'm going to say is not going to help the situation, but I need to say it. So I'll just say it to myself.
In reality, in, situations, daily situations, the tiny and the big, we do get upset in our own ways. We don't fight. We've never been people who have screamed at each other, ever. It's just not, it's not a thing that we do. I'll express myself. He'll say some things or not, and then we just kind of back off, take deep breaths, and we always eventually come back together. And after we've both had time to process kind of those, our reactions and the other person's more instant reactions and realize, I feel like get a better grip on the situation and come back and have a conversation, whether real short or long and heartfelt, talk it out, work it through, and it's done.
Yeah.
And it's pretty well.
And it's one of those things
us.
where if the person, if your spouse has a very strong opinion, and it's something that you don't really have a strong opinion on, it's easier just to cede the point.
One thing our pastor says is, if it's important to you, it's important to me. And I feel like that's like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of realize where the other person is coming from, whether that's totally what you think about a situation, and you just realize how important it is to them. Yeah. And you take it seriously, and you choose to, I guess, make that sacrifice. Seems like a weird word for it, but you choose to set it down.
Yeah. I mean, is this the hill you want to die on? No. Nope, this isn't it. At some point, one will come up.
Did you conceive baby number 7 after a vasectomy? No.
No.
We have never taken permanent measures. We were going to after Ella. And we actually, those things were in the works. We found out Aaron was on the way, and we're like, well, we'll just save ourselves the hassle right now. Because I can't get pregnant again anyway for the next 9 months. And then when he was born, we both looked at him and were like, I can't believe we almost said no to him. Like,
and I mean, we were still young.
Yeah. Gosh, when he was born.
Maybe 6?
He's 7.
He's 7.
I was 29, you were 28?
Yeah. I mean,
that feels really
seems really early
young.
Considering, I mean, in today's society, most people aren't even looking to start conceiving until their 30s.
And it just, I don't know, to me, I just felt like, who else would I be denying entrance into our family that was meant to be? And the other part of that question is, what is your opinion on birth control? I feel like it's a personal decision. Mm-hmm. I mean, we do have moral, and I would say our moral standards stem from our Christian beliefs as far as what methods of birth control we personally are okay with. I do not do hormonal birth control well. I was on it briefly when I was going through surgeries for the cervical cancer I mentioned, because I needed to be able to take the medication that controlled when I had my cycle, so that I could, so that could be controlled for surgeries and stuff like that. And it was horrible on my mental health. The synthetic hormones are not something my body can handle. I cannot. So that strictly limits our choices. So we stick with charting. I have studied very, very detailed study my cycle, and it helps now that I'm a birth professional. But I know my cycle, I know my fertility signs, I know everything very, very well, and I can tell you right away if something's wrong, if I have a hormonal imbalance that needs addressing. Like, I just have paid very, very close attention to that. So we chart, we know when I'm fertile, and we take measures to prevent pregnancy if that's not something
I rely on her for this information.
He does.
Because I'm just good whenever.
I've got a good app for it. But yeah, that's how we handle it. Every married couple needs to handle it how works best for them. And it's not my job to tell you what you should do. I have been told so many times I'm playing God by preventing pregnancy, or I'm irresponsible for not doing something permanent or doing something more effective.
Just know you're always going to irritate somebody. Someone's going to be upset with whatever decision you make.
Yep. So I feel like it's very, very important for every single woman to understand how her body physiologically works, how each method of birth control actually prevents pregnancy instead of taking someone's word for it. because there are very, very popular methods of birth control that, people aren't told much about. They're just told, this is good for 5 years, you're solid. What they're not told is that you literally could get pregnant every single month, and your body, because of the birth control you're using, is having an abortion every single month. And for us personally, that's not something I'm okay with. So it's not something that I'm willing to use, hormonal or not. But you need to know, that's just an example of how one method of birth control works. And you need to know these things. As a woman, you need to understand how it's working within your body and the risks, because there are other risks that are to the woman, like devastating blood clots, things like deep vein thrombosis that can kill you very, very rapidly with little to no warning. And those are things that we need to know and understand, in addition to just plain our physiology and how our bodies work. So people need to be informed, they need to understand, and they need to choose what's best for them as far as birth control is concerned. And that is the end of our questions. Ending it on a high note. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us today. Thank you for all these awesome questions. I'm sure this is going to be a little long. I'm probably going to have to edit out some of our crack ups, because we're good for crack ups, and I've been filming for more than 40 minutes now. You don't want to watch a 40-minute video of us bantering. I know we're cool, but that's a bit much. If you have any other questions, as always, put them in the comments below. We're happy to answer them. We love doing videos like this.
Thumb up us.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up because we like them. And subscribe to hang out for more. We'll see you again soon.